77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 8th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine this morning. Scattered thunderstorms this afternoon. The high going to be 94. Tonight and overnight, clouds hang around, low 75. And then Wednesday, sun and clouds, high 88. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it's 74 and partly cloudy in New Rochelle up in Westchester County, 75 and clear in Englishtown over in New Jersey, and it's 76 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
The flood death toll climbs even higher in Texas. A Brooklyn family fights off a kidnapper. A detective searching for a missing New Yorker in Turks and Caicos speaks out. Why don't animal abusers do real time behind bars? And there's been an uptick in UFO sightings across New York. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Some of the story, or a big part of the story, if you're out and about today, will be the heat. It will be pretty oppressive at times today. In fact, the National Weather Service issuing a heat advisory for New York City, Nassau, Westchester counties, all of New Jersey. That means city cooling centers will be open today. Some of them welcome in pets, by the way. I should point that out. So you can search for the New York City Cool Options map for more information. I've just Googled that. City pool is going to be staying open for an extra hour today. So if you need to cool off that way, you'll be able to do it. Those spray showers that are in parks across the city, they will be on for longer than they usually are. And of course, those reminders always go out to check on senior citizens, kids, anybody who's vulnerable to the heat and may not have AC. Remind them that they can just call 311 to find the nearest cooling center near them. It will feel like, about 100 degrees today. So just take it easy one day of this. And then we'll be back to summer temperatures, but not as hot as it's going to be today. 5:02, this tragic story out of Texas from the floods just gets more tragic by the day. Now, over 100 dead from the massive flooding that swept through central Texas at the end of last week. Some of them, no doubt you've heard, are these campers at a summer camp. This is one of the kids who survived the flooding with the help of a counselor.
It was very late at night, so we had no idea what was happening until one of our counselors ran in and just yelled at everybody to get out as fast as we could.
This was in Kerrville. 48 adults, 27 children dead. 10 children, 1 adult still missing from that girls' camp. Hundreds of first responders have been working, searching overtime, 24/7, looking for any of these campers from Camp Mist.
And I saw the wave, and then everything was falling. And then and then me and the other kid went to go get one of our other counselors, Philip, and then he told us to get on our top bunks, and then we were just chilling there for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and that sounds like it saved their lives.
It was definitely like a movie. There was a lot of lightning, a lot of rain. It was very cold. So for me, it almost felt like a dream. Like it wasn't really happening, but I knew it was.
The impact from the flooding in the Texas Hill Country is taking a toll on those crews who continue to search for the victims, especially since some of the victims are kids.
First responders are seeing things that they weren't prepared to see.
Yeah, Austin Dickinson, he's with the Community Foundation of Texas Hill. They're in charge of an official fund that's been set up to support the ongoing recovery and relief efforts.
At our emergency command center here in our community, there are counselors available for first responders, not just grief support, but just helping people kind of get their mind around in this experience.
Mayor of one of the affected towns, Arvada, Texas, her name's Lauren Simpson, says her heart just aches watching the devastation at Camp Mystic because she worked at the camp in the early 2000s. And when she heard about the flood waters decimating the grounds, she feared what campers might be going through.
Having worked there, I know the layout of those grounds, and I had a pretty good idea which cabins that the waters had reached first overnight, and they would be the cabins in the center of the grounds where the youngest girls stay. One
of those who died in the flood waters was the camp director, Dick Eastland, who died while trying to rescue some of those campers.
They had sons, and so the girls of the camp were all of their daughters, and they treated all the children as such.
Yeah, and now some officials in Texas, as they continue to search for about 24 more people that are missing, they want to reevaluate weather warning systems as that death toll grows. The Texas Lieutenant Governor, his name's Dan Patrick, says the National Weather Service sent out alerts, but apparently not everybody got them, especially in these rural areas.
There needs to be a better system. This is clear that needs to happen. Again, that's no blame on anyone for not having it.
Yeah, one of the ideas is maybe setting up some sort of alert horn or sound that would go off.
If there was no way to communicate that from the local officials to the people who were here, but you have to sign up for that or be a resident of here, so the visitors that came, they didn't have that probably on their phones.
Yeah, so a number of issues they need to sort out. The White House playing defense mode over criticism about the lead up to that flooding. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt scolding some Democrats for claiming that recent cutbacks at the National Weather Service hindered warnings to people in the area.
Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie.
And the White House spokeswoman adding that the weather station actually in this area of Texas had extra staff in place before the storm, and anyone who uses the issue to score political points should be ashamed of themselves.
Everyone here at the White House, including the President of the United States, is praying for the victims' families and friends during this unimaginable time.
And we heard from the President earlier this week, sending his condolences to the families who have lost loved ones. His plan is to go visit the devastated area sometimes towards the end of the week. Of course, he doesn't want to get in the way of the continuing search for any survivors.
President Trump swiftly signed a major disaster declaration for Kerr County, Texas, to ensure our heroic first responders have every resource they need in the relief and recovery efforts.
Yeah, let's hope there is some sort of miracle in Texas and they find more of these kids from this camp alive. WABC News Time 5:08. Let's bring it back here into the city. The race for the mayor. Democrats, Republicans coming together, trying to figure out a way to stop Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani from winning the mayoral race come November. Yesterday, it was a press conference right outside our studios that included our owner-operator, John Catsimatidis, of course, hosts Cats and Cosby every day at 5 o'clock, and former New York Governor David Paterson, trying to find a way to beat Zohran Mamdani. Patterson's calling on one of the Democrats who's running as an independent, be it Andrew Cuomo or Mayor Adams, to consider pulling back. Says he knows this is all a very difficult decision.
But when weighed against the progress of the city, when weighed against what we've seen happen in Chicago, in San Francisco, and in other cities, this is a possibility.
Now, so what we're seeing, of course, in the early polling is with all the candidates in the race. You have the Mayor Adams, Andrew Cuomo, Zohran Mamdani, Curtis Sliwa. That opposition to Zohran Mamdani is split between those other candidates and then propels Mamdani to a victory. So that's what they're trying to stop from happening. But the only thought is the collective wisdom is that means somebody would have to drop out of the race. Here was John yesterday.
Everybody has concerns. I live in New York City for over 70 years. I have concerns, and I think we need common sense to prevail. And that's the most important thing to me.
And Governor Patterson says this is all for the greater good.
They work hard. They're working 24/7. They're trying to get your vote. The idea of pulling back and supporting someone else is very difficult for anyone to accept.
Now, right now, there's no suggestion that any of these candidates will drop out. Mayor Adams has been adamant that Andrew Cuomo should be the one to drop out.
He spent $25 or $30 million. He put his message out. Voters heard it. He lost by 12 percentage points. I have an opportunity to go one-on-one with Mamdani.
Mayor Adams confirmed that Cuomo privately urged him to withdraw from the race, but he refused to go into specifics about that conversation. Curtis Sliwa says, well, he's not going anywhere.
The Democrats are the ones who have created this mess. So let them sort it out in terms of who is going to represent a Democratic candidate against Zohran, but I'm the Republican candidate.
Yeah, and right now the person who seems to be benefiting from all this attention is Zohran Mamdani himself, who says he's watching this all from the sidelines, and he says it's okay with him if everybody stays in the race.
I welcome everyone to be a part of this race because we're going to defeat them all.
Yeah, well, of course, it only benefited him if all those people stay in the race. 5:11. A 6-year-old boy recovering after a man tried to kidnap him off the streets of Coney Island, then threw him to the ground after his parents chased him.
The nightmare for parents came to life Sunday night around 10 p.m. near Stillwell and Surf Avenues in Coney Island. Father Roy Gant says the family was wrapping up a day on the boardwalk when he turned around and saw the man pick up his son and start running. He and his wife gave chase. That's when the man threw the boy to the concrete. They eventually caught up to the man, pinned him down, and waited for police. The man is in custody. The boy is okay. Dad says he never wants to come back to Coney Island ever again. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 512. Let's go down to Washington, D.C. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the partnership between Israel and the U.S. and the partnership between President Trump and him produced a historic victory over Iran a couple weeks back. He and the president spoke to the press at length before what was a working dinner at the White House last night, opening a portion of the events to the media at the last moment. There wasn't going to be any questions taken, really wasn't any questions taken in the end. But Netanyahu likened the combined American and Israeli efforts against Tehran as setting back in his words, the two tumors that were threatening the life of Israel. And then the Israeli prime minister went even further. He said that President Trump should be nominated and should win the Nobel Peace Prize for what he's doing around the world.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved.
Prime Minister says President Trump is pursuing peace and security in many lands, especially in the Middle East. He told the president he had sent the letter to the Nobel Prize Committee and that he should win.
Well, thank you very much. Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful.
Meanwhile, President Trump's meeting with the Israeli prime minister focusing on getting Hamas to agree to a ceasefire. All sides meeting in Qatar yesterday to go through what would be a 60-day ceasefire, which would see the release of some of the hostages. Some food and aid would get into Gaza. Here was Caroline Levitt, the press secretary, talking about this meeting last night.
They're having a private dinner. There's many important matters that are obviously ongoing in the region, as you know. The utmost priority for the president right now in the Middle East is to end the war in Gaza and to return all of the hostages.
And President Trump has said that they are very close to a deal, saying one could happen even as soon as this week.
We hope that they will agree to this proposal. We want to see all of the hostages released. That's on the top of the president's mind, so that will be discussed, as well as the many other positive developments we've seen in the Middle East.
And what we're hearing from Qatar this morning, at least, of those meetings between Israeli officials, Hamas leaders, and the American negotiators have been going pretty well.
An agreeable and appropriate ceasefire proposal has been sent to Hamas. And I can also tell you Special Envoy Witkoff intends to travel to Doha later this week, where he will continue to engage in these discussions.
Yeah, again, the president hoping he could have a deal as soon as the end of the week. All right, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We'll start here with some news out of the NBA. The Knicks officially hired Mike Brown yesterday, turned into the two-time NBA Coach of the Year after firing Tom Thibodeau. They offered the job to Brown, of course, last week, as you remember. Officially announced yesterday that he would be taking over the team that reached the Eastern Conference Finals last season for the first time in 25 years. They decided to fire Thibodeau despite that and eventually picked Brown, who wasn't out of work long after getting fired by the Sacramento Kings during last season. So Mike Brown has officially arrived to the MLB after an off day yesterday for both local squads. The Yankees will return to the Bronx to welcome in the Seattle Mariners for the opener of a three-game set tonight. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. New York has a 49-41 record overall and a 26-17 record at home. Aaron Judge leads the Yanks with his 33 home runs, 65 walks, and 74 RBI while hitting .360 so far this year. Jason Dominguez has been hot of late, going 16 for 40 with 3 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, and 6 RBI over his past 10 games. Nonetheless, the Yankees are 3-7 over their last 10, batting .254 as a team with a 7.07 ERA on the hill and have been outscored by 15 runs. They sit 3.5 games back now of the first-place Toronto Blue Jays in the AL East. As for the Mets, they'll go with Clay Holmes for the opener of a 3-game interleague series in Baltimore against the Orioles, set for a 6:35 p.m. first pitch tonight. New York is 52-39 overall, 19-25 on the road. Francisco Lindor, although he has been struggling a little bit as of late, has 17 doubles, 17 home runs, 49 RBI for the Mets this season. Brandon Nimmo, he's caught fire recently, going 11 for 38 with 2 doubles and 3 homers over his past 10. As a team over the last 10, the Mets are 5-5, batting .249 with a 6 ERA. They've been outscored by 17 runs. Both local squads here looking to play some better baseball moving forward. That is,
maybe the All-Star break will help both squads.
It usually does. It usually does for struggling teams like this, especially if you're teams that are built like the Mets and the Yankees, which, from the outside looking in here, not being an MLB analyst really, but you would think that both of these teams at some point would figure it out, especially in the American League where the Yankees lie in that AL East. I'm not sure that the Blue Jays or the Rays could hold that big of a lead in the AL East. But listen, if the Yankees keep struggling through the All-Star break and thereafter, then you're in serious trouble, of course. 3.5 games is not insurmountable at the moment, but if that gets bubbles into a 6-7 game deficit, then you're looking at trouble, Noam, lady.
Yeah, well, don't jump from the second floor just yet. It's only July, early July. There's lots of time left.
Hey, you brought it up. I'm fine.
Okay, good.
That's your sports. I'm Justin Ellick, 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19. The White House confirming President Trump is sending out take-it-or-leave-it tariff offers to several countries this week. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt showed reporters the letters Trump sent to Japan and Korea yesterday.
The president will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st. So the reciprocal tariff rate or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made.
The letters warn the high tariffs imposed by the U.S. will go into effect August 1 unless these new trade deals are struck.
We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the president, and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker.
And they're not ready to back down just yet.
And in the effort of transparency, these letters will continue to be posted to Truth Social, so you can enjoy them yourself.
5:20, President Trump also saying the U.S. going to send more weapons to Ukraine now.
He made the remarks at a White House dinner with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now.
This comes after the administration had paused some weapon shipments to Ukraine over concerns the U.S. military stockpile was being depleted. Trump said on Monday the Ukrainians have to be able to defend themselves, and the U.S. would be sending primarily defensive weapons. As for the pause in weapon shipments, Trump said the U.S. needed to make sure we have enough for ourselves. I'm Mark Mayfield.
5:21. Let's go out to California, Northern California. Remains of all 7 missing victims of a fireworks warehouse explosion there last week have been recovered. The Esperado fire chief says they work to continue to recover all the disposed and undetonated pyrotechnics that all went off. And they're still trying to figure out exactly why they all went off.
Throughout the last 2 days, we've been gathering those types of devices and conducting burn-off operations, as we're calling them, to immediately remediate those hazards and issues right here in the area.
Now, all 7 who were killed were workers in this warehouse. It took a while till they could get in because it was just too dangerous.
A site visit entails just basically coming on site and understanding what the operation looks like and understanding that is there. Just having for pre-planning and understanding, what something may look like.
And now an investigation underway to just figure out exactly what took place.
And so, we have had, support conversations with him just to make sure that him and his family were okay. But outside of that, as far as the investigation goes, no, we are avoiding any kind of conflict with that.
We will go from Northern California to Southern California, where the immigration battle between the White House and California escalating. Border czar Tom Homan telling reporters yesterday there are plans to flood agents into sanctuary cities like Los Angeles.
We're going to double down, triple down in sanctuary cities. Why? Not because they're a blue city or blue state, because we know that's where the problem is.
Homan says there are plans to ramp up worksite raids. The Justice Department announced a lawsuit against Los Angeles over its sanctuary city policies. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement the city's flouting federal law by prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens.
We know they're releasing public safety threats and national security threats to the streets every day because they don't honor our detainers. Where we're going to send our assets, we're going to send them where the problem is. Sanctuary cities.
And the White House wants Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt challenging Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other Democrats to meet with border agents.
We certainly call on Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents who, again, are everyday men and women.
Yeah, so many of these border agents have been on the been attacked, I should say. Leavitt called the agents honorable men and women who are simply enforcing U.S. law. She acknowledged the White House aware of this story earlier this week, Sunday into Monday, where someone opened fire at a Border Patrol facility. This was in South Texas.
I would encourage AOC and other Democrats to actually meet with the United States Border Patrol. These are honorable Americans who are just simply trying to do their job to enforce the law. They go home to their families every night just like we all do, and they deserve respect. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
Just frightening stuff there. 524 while we're talking ICE and putting illegal immigrants behind bars. Governor Ron DeSantis down in Florida says he's confident he will get reimbursed $450 million that'll spend to run the Everglades internment camp for migrants. He was in Jacksonville yesterday talking about it.
When you spend money for this, you save money because you take stress off hospitals, schools, criminal justice, all that. So I don't even want to, enforcing the law ultimately will save money rather than just let lawlessness take over.
This is the detention center that's been dubbed Alligator Alcatraz because if you're able to escape, swampland all around it with alligators, boa constrictors, fun stuff like that.
These are really bad dudes. I mean, and I'm not one to say, if you're here illegally, you have committed an offense. And I would do no amnesty for anybody. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, only if you commit serious crime should you be deported. I think the law needs to be enforced. That will pay dividends for people here in the state of Florida. It'd be better for education. It'd be better for health care. It'd be better for all these things. Better for housing.
Alaska so impressed with what they've seen in Alligator Alcatraz. They're talking about opening a polar bear Alcatraz in Alaska. 525. Biological males can continue competing in sports in California.
The Trump administration wants to ban transgender athletes from competing in girls' sports, and last month told California education officials to restore any prize won by a transgender athlete to the next placing biological female athlete or face legal action. The administration says California is in violation of Title IX, but in a two-line response issued this week, the California Department of Education's lawyers said they don't agree. I'm Jason Campadonia.
From California, if you go to the state of Washington, cops following up on reports of a possible sighting of a Washington state man accused of murdering his 3 young daughters over a month ago.
The U.S. Marshal Service says 32-year-old Travis Decker may have been spotted in Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest over the weekend. Police say a family reported seeing a man matching Decker's description in the Bear Creek area. Decker is accused of killing his 5, 8, and 9-year-old daughters and then leaving their bodies at a campsite on May 30th. I'm Chris Coraggio.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 8th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine this morning, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon. Going to be awfully warm, the high 94. Tonight and overnight, clouds hang around, low 75, and better for Wednesday, sun and clouds, the high 88 if you are walking out the door with us right now. So happy you are. 74 and partly cloudy in New Rochelle up in Westchester County, 75 and clear in Englishtown over in New Jersey, and 76 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. A man in custody after he snatched a 6-year-old child off the street in Coney Island. I was watching video of this, really frightening stuff. Just some stranger picking up the boy as his parents were walking with him, running away with him. Roy Gant and his wife Sharon Robinson start running after this crazed individual who had picked up their 6-year-old. This was Stillwell and Surf Avenue, and they ran after him, trying to get him to let go of their kid.
When he saw me come, he ran and he slammed my son on the ground. I took off running after this guy because he could not, he will not, and cannot get away.
Yeah, so when this individual saw that he was being chased, that's when he threw the kid hard to the ground. The parents didn't give up. They kept chasing this guy until they caught up with him.
Cops came and they thought that we was just jumping on somebody for no reason.
I had my foot on his chest to hold him down. I didn't have the heart to stomp him. Violence is not my way.
Now, the streets were really crowded full of eyewitnesses. They were like, what the hell is going on here? Police caught up with this 36-year-old only because the parents were holding him down. When they showed up, he's Jonathan Robalino. He's been charged with assault and attempted kidnapping.
It was scary.
Here's the kid describing what happened to him.
It was scary. And I didn't like it. Keep thinking about the man put me on the ground. And I keep thinking about it right now.
So why did he try to kidnap the 6-year-old? It's not really clear, but what police tell us is they're familiar with this guy. They've seen him before. Looking at him, it looks like there may be some mental health issues. The parents say they hope the book is thrown at him.
He deserves whatever comes to him for what he did to my child.
So the good news is the 6-year-old is healthy after being examined at Coney Island Hospital. Of course, as you heard just a moments ago, he still has memories of what happened to him, and he says that was very upsetting. 541. Let's go up to the Bronx, where prosecutors charging a 73-year-old man with killing his wife in the Bronx. Detectives yesterday removing evidence from a bloody crime scene inside a Pelham Parkway apartment. Police say Marcia Greenberg, who was 77 years old, lived there with her husband. She was rushed to Jacoby Hospital, pronounced dead. Greenberg, police say, had been brutally beaten, and sources say she had a pillow over her head. Now, neighbors say they knew this couple pretty well.
I didn't think it was that bad that they would have something like that would happen.
Other neighbors say they had heard the couple bicker, sometimes publicly, sometimes loudly. One neighbor says he heard outbursts from the victim becoming more louder, more frequent. However, they say that she seemed confused and appeared to be in declining health. Again, neighbors, though, say when they were out on the streets, this couple seemed to be well liked.
He seemed very loving of her, very calm. So I doubt it had to do with him. Maybe it was an accident. I'm honestly not sure.
You'd be very surprised if he intended to harm her.
Yes, I would. It's not somebody I would expect to do something like that.
Yeah, but yesterday, the victim's husband, identified as 73-year-old Jeffrey Colin, charged with murder, manslaughter, 2 counts of strangulation, 1 count of criminal possession of a weapon. His motive for killing his wife, so far, police just don't know. 542, police in Turks and Caicos working to determine of a decomposing body found in the bay there is that of a missing New Yorker they've been looking for over the last few weeks. The family of Brian Terrence hired a private investigator to help with the search as they wait to find out if this body is his. Now, Terrence and his wife, Maria, were planning on spending 7 days in Turks and Caicos. The couple left their home in Manhattan for what was supposed to be a one-year anniversary celebration. But when Maria woke up on the second day of vacation, she couldn't find her husband, so she immediately alerted the authorities. Her family then hired a private investigator who was formerly with the NYPD and lives in Turks and Caicos. His name's Carl DeFazio. He spoke to Eyewitness News about this case.
They had a busy day that day. They went on a boat trip and they came back or whatever. And then that evening she went to bed early at 7. He was in the room, and then, she got up. She told me a few times he was there. And then when she got up that morning, she noticed he wasn't in the villa. She went to the management office and said, "Did you see my husband?" And that's when everything started.
Yeah, so one of the last images of Terrence taken from security cameras was outside the villa where they were staying at the Paradise Inn. It was taken about 3:40 in the morning, and there he is, alone on camera.
He made the turnabout in front of the Ritz-Carlton, and he walked towards the highway. So once he got to the highway, he made a left and another left into what seemed to be a half commercial, half residential warehouse.
Yeah, so potentially there was this big break in the case when they found this body. Now, it's not 100% sure that it's this individual, but DeFazio thinks there's a good chance it's him because all things kind of add up.
We had plenty of people searching for him. We blanketed the place with flyers, the whole island was. I had many, many phone calls from people, concerned citizens and tourists, saying, "Hey, Carl, have you found him yet? Have you found him yet?" If I had a bet on it, I would say it's probably him. The coincidences are way, way too much.
Yeah, the coroner will have to positively ID the body. What happened to him, that was really not 100% clear. New York City's top cop says her department needs federal authority in order to properly police drones.
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch calling for local authority over drones for safety reasons. The commissioner penned an opinion piece for the Daily News that points out the dangers drones can pose, including being used to drop explosives or even fire guns. Tisch says several federal agencies have access to technology that can counteract drone flights, but not the NYPD. And she notes that since last year, terrorist groups have released propaganda encouraging drone attacks at crowded venues. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
There's been a big uptick in UFO sightings across New York. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Yesterday was a big day for our New York Knicks, officially hiring Mike Brown, turning the two-time NBA Coach of the Year after firing Tom Thibodeau. They offered the job to Brown last week after officially announced it yesterday that he would be taking over the team that reached the Eastern Conference Finals last season for the first time in 25 years. That firing of Thibodeau was a little surprising following that Eastern Conference Finals appearance, but the Knicks eventually picking Brown. Wasn't out of work long after getting fired by the Sacramento Kings during last season, so he has arrived, your new head coach of the New York Knicks. To the MLB, we're looking ahead to tonight after an off day yesterday for both local squads. The Yankees will return to the Bronx to welcome in the Seattle Mariners for the opener of a 3-game set tonight. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. New York 49-41 overall, 26-17 at home. Aaron Judge still leading the Yanks with his 33 home runs, 65 walks, and 74 RBI, hitting .360 so far this year. Jason Dominguez has been the hottest as of late, 16 for his last 40 with 3 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, and 6 RBI. Nonetheless, Yankees are 3-7 over the last 10, batting .254 as a team, and not pitching great either. 7.07 ERA on the mound, and have been outscored by 15 runs, and that's why they sit 3.5 games back at the first-place Toronto Blue Jays in the AL East. As for the Mets, they'll go with Clay Holmes for the opener of a 3-game interleague series in Baltimore against the Orioles, set for a 6:35 p.m. first pitch tonight. New York 52-39 overall, 19-25 on the road. Francisco Lindor, although he has been hot and cold as of late, 17 doubles though, 17 home runs, 49 RBI for the Mets this season. He'll be an all-star. Brendan Nimmo, he's caught recent fire, going 11 for 38 with 2 doubles and then 3 home runs over his past 10 games, and as a team over the last 10, the Mets are 5-5. They've been outscored by 17 runs. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Owen on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Columbia University and the Trump administration reportedly in talks to restore some of the school's federal funding. It was back in March, you'll remember, that President Trump canceled $400 million in grants and federal contracts to the Ivy League school, citing illegal protests and a spike in anti-Semitism on the campus. But the Wall Street Journal reporting this morning that the two sides are talking again about possible options to restore some of the money that would not include any sort of consent decree. Out to Long Island. Do you remember this story back on Memorial Day? This woman rented out her basement to an individual who clearly had some issues. He, while she was away, set the house on fire with both her dogs inside, and both of the dogs were killed. Well, her name's Ariana Belfort, and she's amazed that nothing's really been done to this individual who set the fire. She wants to know why he has not been given jail time. She says that makes sense to her. He should be behind bars for killing her two dogs, Jack and Jameson.
The fire engulfed the house in a matter of minutes. Jack and Jameson were brutally murdered. They were burned alive. He was only charged with one count of animal cruelty. That is not enough.
Now, we're hearing from some state assembly members who agree with them. With her. One of them is Jake Blumenkrantz. He's also calling for a legislative change. We've seen this before, and it really hasn't worked out. But he says the law's antiquated. He announced that he's introducing a bill this week that would make killing a pet punishable by up to 25 years to life in prison. And that would hold this individual accountable who admitted that or allegedly admitted that he had done it on purpose.
Our laws are antiquated.
They had feelings, they were living beings, and they deserve justice.
Yeah, so far, though, it's not a total slap on the wrist, but essentially, in the end, that's what it is. Sean Diddy Combs' sentencing date could be moved up with a hearing today that'll weigh the timeline. You'll remember last week, the rap mogul found guilty of transporting people for prostitution, but acquitted of the more serious charges in his sex trafficking trial in Lower Manhattan. He remains behind bars, scheduled to be sentenced on October 3rd. Today's hearing, the prosecution and defense expected to discuss moving up that date and possibly sentencing recommendations. 5:51. A family in New Jersey desperate to find their dog who was in the back seat of the family's car when it was stolen in Bloomfield last month. Alvin is a poodle mix. He was in the back seat of the vehicle when his owners say it was stolen in a split second. Apparently, they left the dog in a running car to run into a laundromat to get their clothes and put it back in the car. And in that process, the car was stolen with the dog in the back seat.
She looks outside and the guy was getting into the car. And then he started driving away. My dad ran behind him and he didn't stop the car. Now,
the car was abandoned. It was found later near South 13th Street, and Avon Avenue in Newark. But Alvin, the dog, was not there. Now, neighbors on this street saw the car, and some of them say they saw the dog walking on the street and wondered what that was all about.
I did. I saw the dog, and I didn't know what to think because it's a very odd character, to be roaming on Avon Avenue, but I didn't stop. I didn't. I didn't think to stop. I'm like, okay, there's probably an owner nearby.
Yeah, the family has not stopped searching, is checking in regularly with local animal shelter, hoping to be reunited with Alvin. But the last sighting is that woman you just heard from. They say she had an Apple AirTag that she was wearing, but for some reason it's no longer active. So now they're hoping that someone with a heart will leave them to their beloved dog. But unless somebody wants that chip or decides to turn that dog in, chances are they realize they may never see the dog again.
My sister, we've been crying about him. She used to sleep with him and everything. We would sleep with him every single night. And it hasn't been the same anymore.
Yeah, a reward being offered for Alvin's safe return. They say no questions will be asked. They'll hand the cash, you hand the dog over, no questions asked. 5:53. There have been dozens of UFO sightings across New York so far this year. I mean, more than usual. I'm trying to figure out exactly what this is all about. But the National UFO Reporting Center says there have been 66 reports of unidentified flying objects across New York State. Now, whenever you do a story like this, people will say, I don't believe it. There's nothing in outer space. We're not being visited by anybody. It's just something that we can't identify. So when you ask New Yorkers about this, they have all kinds of opinions about these upticks in UFO sightings.
Stay out here. They're doing a real good job of flying 2,000 miles an hour UFO.
That's believable because we can't be the only people out here, honestly.
So there have been reports from Manhattan of UFOs, Rochester, many other locations. There were 6 UFO sightings in June alone, with one person reporting that they saw a metallic ball fly slightly under an airplane while flying over New York City. Now, I saw pictures of this. I think it was New York Post put them out, and it was interesting to look at. You can't really make out what it is, but not everybody is convinced.
Seeing is believing, so I got to see it to believe it.
If I seen it, I would believe it.
You know what? I've never seen one personally, but from people that I've known that's seen one or something, like, you can't miss it. And I feel like there are aliens actually, like, with us on Earth.
Yeah, some other New Yorkers, though, they have what they describe as more logical explanations about what these UFOs are.
I would probably say that's something from the government, because the government makes stuff and they don't tell us. We see something new, we're confused.
I tend to think a lot of UFOs are probably just military aircraft.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we just don't know. There's all kinds of societies that investigate these claims, and I imagine they're investigating these claims that have been seen, especially the ones in June. 6 sightings just here in New York City. 5:55, the 17th annual New Jersey Hall of Fame induction ceremony is set for November 21st. The event tentatively going to be hosted by actor Danny DeVito, who is already in the Hall of Fame. The 2025 class includes the Jonas Brothers, Martin Brodeur, of course, the former New Jersey Devil.
Martin.
What did I say?
Martin.
Yeah, same thing.
No, Martin.
Yeah, whatever.
No, Martin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martin Brodeur.
So when somebody calls you Gnome, you get mad. You want it to be
no. People call me Gnome all the time.
And you used to get furious.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Oh my God, you certainly did.
Furious.
You certainly did.
I bet Martin Brodeur doesn't get upset.
Oh, he gets very upset. His name is Martin.
All right.
Why would you call him Martin?
Because I don't follow hockey. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, well, I'm giving you the correct way to pronounce it now.
Okay.
So you don't sound stupid the rest of the morning.
All right. So in the class is Martin Brodeur.
Fine.
Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, restaurateur and chef David Burke. And
he's a good buddy of mine.
Who's that, David Burke?
Absolutely. He also, he's a New Jersey guy. He's got some of the best restaurants in the country in New Jersey. But he, I believe at one point, was one of the original owners of the River Cafe.
Oh, really?
Underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, a tremendous restaurant.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, Burke. He's been on this show many, many times.
But you know who's missing from the New Jersey Hall of Fame?
Joe Piscopo.
No, Joe Nolan, 557, traffic transit on the 7th. I think that's an obvious choice. No. How come you're not in there, Joe Nolan?
Because they hate me. I'm not going in there.
Why do they hate you?
I don't know. I'm never going to be in there.
They let Martin Brodeur in.
You know what? And Sid's right. It's Martin Brodeur. Greatest goaltender in the history of the National Hockey League, Martin.
This is why you'll never get into the New Jersey Hall of Fame, because you say stupid things like that.
Well, he should spell his name differently.
He was a great goalie. The guy won a bunch of Stanley Cups. He was terrific, but...
If your name is Martin Brodeur, then don't spell it M-A-R-T-I-N.
He's French-Canadian. Martin Brodeur.
Well, that's another reason to dislike him. Yeah.
It's kind of like, you remember the hockey player, his last name was spelt St. Louis?
Yes.
But his name is San Luis.
Yeah.
San Luis.
Yeah. You don't call him St. Louis, you moron.
Maybe I would.
God. You know what? For the rest of the morning, everybody just call Gnome. Like fine. G-N-O-M-E.
I get it all day, every day. So
you're going to get it all day today.
Sounds like a good one.
So now you and Errol Lewis are getting your asses kicked this morning.
Errol Louis, you mean? Go ahead, Joe.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.